Welcome everyone to Prop It Up. We're back. We survived football season and took a little hiatus, and we've decided to come back together again. We're doing NBA props, NHL props, and MLB props, and of course, joining me as always, Matt Josephs and Andrew McInnis, my fellow prop masters. So great to see you guys, and in honor of starting Prop It Up again. We are giving out a hellacious deal to all of our clients. Go to any of our pages, and you can get 90 days of props for only $259. And on top of that, when you purchase that, you will get emailed to you a coupon for 20% off a long-term access or seasonal subscription of their choice. So you get a great deal, 90 days of props for $259, and you get the coupon that'll be emailed to you. It's a great deal, and all of us are so excited to get back into props. And now we have sports like NBA, NHL, and MLB that are every single day. So let's just get right into it. Matt, I'm going to come to you first. You have started doing NBA props this season. You've gotten better and better and better, and you're winning now. So talk us through what doing NBA props has been like, and what you've been noticing has been working for you.
Glad you correlated the whole getting better and starting to win now, almost making it like I've picked nothing but losers to start. But I appreciate that, Andy. No, but seriously though, I've started to kind of work in the NBA props because it's somewhat similar to the NFL when you're looking at some of the things that you can do with regards to points, rebounds, assists, and things like that. And kind of what I've noticed is I do daily DFS every day on FanDuel and DraftKings, and the articles that I read for those at least are good starting points. If there's a player that is listed in a bunch of these articles, then you go and you do a little bit of research and you go to your favorite book of choice and figure out, some correlation to how somebody's playing. There's been a ton of injuries so far. There's been a ton of blowouts. There's been a ton of teams that are basically phasing players out to play some of the youth. So it's kind of cutting through some of this stuff. And also, as you've taught me, finding your favorite players. A guy that I've really liked as of late is Robert Covington. He hit about 3 or 4 for me. And then the Blazers lost by like 60 points, and he didn't hit his prop. And so tonight they're playing once again, and so I might be going back to Mr. Robert Covington. And then there's a couple of other guys that have been very kind. So it's basically just trying to find some trends, find some articles that give you some good starting points, and then kind of going from there and looking at game logs and seeing some trends there.
Yeah, I love trying to find these guys that go on these streaks. If you can find a guy that can hit 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10, I mean, it's amazing to say, oh, yeah, I've been hitting 70% on this prop or 80% on this prop. And Covington has been a great one. Jeremy Grant started off the season with a ton of overs, and now he's hitting a ton of unders. It's amazing. You have the same guy, and you catch these streaks. Covington has been good. Satoransky for the Bulls has been very popular. I am finding success in taking overs on guys with point totals that are lower than some of the superstars, and it's because of the blowouts, like you said. It's amazing. The blowouts are the biggest story in terms of betting, as far as I'm concerned. You take props and you have a blowout, and all the starters sit. And you have a blowout, and all of a sudden the coach rests all the starters. So a 20-point game turns into a 40-point game. So I'm leaning more towards looking at guys whose point total is like 9 points, 12 points, something like that. And Covington falls right into that. So I think it's great what you're doing, and you're winning. You send me your picks every day, and you're doing great. It's been really, really cool to watch. And I got to be honest, I've stole some of your picks for my own for my own bankroll. So, Andrew, NHL,
what's up,
going
guys?
strong. Tons of NHL games, and you have a very interesting approach to NHL props. You love playing them in the playoffs. So talk to me about what you find in the playoffs, and what can we expect for you for NHL props moving forward.
Yeah, I see Matt gave me a funny look there, but I'm just excited to be back here on the show with you guys. We're going to get into Prop It Up again, so I'm just excited to be doing this. And like you mentioned, we got through the football season. We did it every single week, and we're back on Prop It Up. And yeah, you mentioned playoffs, but also closer to the playoffs for me, and kind of very similar to what you're saying, Andy, about these blowouts in the NBA, which is why I found it very difficult doing these props in the NBA, especially at this point in the season. So with the NHL, it's quite the opposite. You're starting to see the ice time for some of these star players just absolutely raise up to a really, really high level, and the highest it's going to be, simply because the games are a lot more meaningful right now. Every single point matters. You're in the battle for a playoff spot, a battle for a certain position in the playoffs, and you can really tell who's going to be out there and who's going to be out there with who. And also these power plays. Power plays are becoming a lot more crucial. Games are becoming a lot more tight. So I'm scanning through a lot of these, which teams are getting the most penalties per game. Which games between, rivalries, for example, let's say Ottawa, Toronto, are averaging a lot more penalty minutes than, let's say, others. And if that's the case, I'm grabbing some point totals or some anytime goal scorers for some of these guys that are on that power play. So I just find, Andy, during this time of year with the NHL season and heading into the playoffs, you can really narrow in on certain spots, whereas during the regular season and the start of the season, of course, you're going to see those best players be the best players, but you're going to see those depth guys, the fourth liners, the third liners make a real impact. But let's be honest, I mean, the old saying, great big time players make big time plays. And that's really what I'm expecting to see come playoff time, those big time players making big time plays. And I'm hoping to make some money on it.
Yeah, you gave me a couple pointers when I started doing NHL props, and it really is amazing. The shots on goal is a really popular prop to play. And you take a team like Colorado, they're averaging only giving up 25 shots on goal a game. And compare that to Vancouver, they're almost at 34 shots on goal a game. I mean, it's 9 shots a game different. So when you look at, if you get a guy who's playing Vancouver, you're like, yeah, it's probably going to be almost 10 extra shots a game on this goalie. And the power play has been huge. That was your best piece of advice to me, was look at guys who play on the power play and then look at teams that commit a lot of penalties, and you're going to be hitting the shots on goal. It was really good. I've also noticed in NHL, and correct me if I'm wrong, boy, it's streaky this year. These teams, there's not too many teams, it feels like, that they win one and lose one and win two and lose two. It feels like there are teams just loaded up with streaks. Like, oh, this team lost 13 out of 15. Oh, this team just won 6 out of 7 games. And I feel like if you can catch some of those teams, the props will correlate with them. It's a weird season with the scheduling and everything. So talk to me a little bit about some of the streaks that you've seen this year with some of the teams.
Yeah, well, first of all, Andy, I do have to, if I had a ball cap on, I would tip my cap to you, because you have definitely adopted the NHL props and you're crushing it, man. So hats off to you for that. And, one that you've been doing that I want to start looking towards is for a guy not to get a point, because that's, kind of correlates to what I was saying about the whole, this time of year, the big time players stepping up, the second in liners and the first liners. So I'm looking at that down the stretch. And you mentioned those streaks. And I believe it's mainly just because these teams are tied to their certain divisions. You're only playing the same amount of teams or the same teams so many times. So you're not really getting these flat spots. You're not getting as much travel situations and that kind of wagers to look at. So that's why I think it's a huge thing. I mean, Buffalo, what was it, 18 in a row, 18 losses. There weren't any real flat spots for them to really take advantage of. Every team saw Buffalo in the crosshairs and just said, yeah, you know what, we're going to go ahead and stomp this team tonight. So the shots on goal has been huge, that you've said. But looking at some of those teams that are struggling, for a guy not to get a point is huge. And I want to elaborate as well on the power plays. A lot of guys are taking for someone to get a point. If you can get over 1.5 points, I believe that might be better sometimes for everybody out there. The most common one, Andy, is anytime goal scorer, a guy to score a goal. But you can see some guys, for example, Patrice Bergeron on the Boston Bruins, he has Brad Marchand to his right and Pastrnak to his left. They might be doing the goal scoring. Bergeron might be doing the assists and the passing. So might want to avoid all the goal scoring props and look at some of these over 1.5 point props and take advantage of it. Because if you have a team scoring 3, 4, 5 goals per game, maybe this guy isn't scoring exactly, but he's definitely putting up those numbers.
Agree completely. I mean, the assists are, you have a team that scores 4 goals. You can have 6 different guys that get credited with assists. So right. I'm with you. I'm with you totally. Let's talk baseball. Matt, I'm going to go to you. We're still a little bit early in the baseball season. props are kind of hard to figure out right now just because we don't have a big track record. I see a lot of people playing first five. I think that seems to be popular, and I've seen some people get burned by bad bullpens, which seems to happen a lot in baseball right now. So, Major League Baseball, what are you noticing now? Any teams, any players that you're dialed in, or are you just kind of taking take a step back and see what comes to you?
Well, and the first fives are pretty much all I'm playing right now. I mean, I don't do full games unless I take an over, because you want nothing to do with these unders late, because if you get to extra innings, we're starting with a runner on second and nobody out for both teams, and that most teams are going to be able to get a run at least off of that. So you're going to have enough cushion. You're going to have enough cushion to have your unders hit. So I've been doing pretty much nothing but first fives. My quote unquote system deals most with the starting pitchers, because you know that you're going to get probably 5 innings from them nowadays. So therefore, if you can go with your known quantity of the starting pitcher, then you can isolate the first 5 innings. Usually I take pitcher strikeout props. I took one early. I took Pablo Lopez. He was cruising along. The Marlins took him out after 5 innings. So at least for the first couple go-throughs, we're going to tread lightly on the strikeout props, because I think some of these teams are going to go, a little bit shorter with their starting pitchers, considering how short some of these people have had during the springs. And then one of the other things I like to look at occasionally is total bases prop. Now, the key here is everybody's book is a little bit different. Some books have hits, some books have total bases, some books have total bases with walks and things like that. So you really have to read the wording of your sports book to see how it works out. And one of the things I like to do when I'm collecting data on my starting pitchers is recent history. How have these players done? And the biggest example, and Andrew knows about this because I talked about it last year during the baseball show, G-Man Choi literally owned Garrett Cole. I don't know how many home runs it was. It was 5 or 6. And so when he faced off against him last year, I think 2 or 3 of the games, he hit a home run, had a couple hits off of him. And so we played G-Man Choi over total bases, and it hit easily. You look at this game coming up on Wednesday between the Rays and the Red Sox. Yarbrough is pitching for Tampa Bay. Well, JD Martinez is 9 for 15 with 2 home runs against him. Now, that's really good for the past, but you have to look at the current form for JD Martinez, see how he's hitting, see if he's hitting well, things like that. So you can't just blindly take these guys, but you at least have the history in your back pocket. On the other side, Nate Eovaldi has faced the Rays a couple of times, and Austin Meadows 5 for 9 with a home run. Joey Wendell 5 for 7 with a home run. So it's just a couple of guys that if they have a nice little history against the starting pitcher and they're in good form in the current season, Fernando Tatis was a guy that I played the first 2 days because he had great numbers against his Arizona counterparts. Well, Tatis isn't hitting very well, and now he's injured. So therefore, it's something to put in the back of your mind as to who's in good form and who's not. But it's always nice to see previous histories with these starting pitchers against major league hitters, because then you can have that when you want to look at the total bases or hits props.
Oh, that injury was so brutal to watch. My shoulder hurt watching him crumble to the ground when that was so sad to watch that. Matt, just off the top of your head, are there teams that right now that you're looking at going, oh man, these guys are going to hit a ton? Or are there teams where you're like, man, these guys can't hit at all, so let's look at some unders? Any first glances are really good or really bad teams right now on props in MLB?
Well, the 2 things that I've looked at and have hit on so far, White Sox versus left-handed starters. I mean, they're crushing them. Last night, they didn't have Tim Anderson, who is a lefty masher, and they still managed to put up a bunch of runs against Seattle and Justice Sheffield. So certainly when you see the White Sox against the lefty, and when Tim Anderson's in the lineup even more, you're looking at the over for their team runs. You're looking at some total base props for like Tim Anderson and thing like that. You're looking at the game over. You're looking at the over for the runs, hits, and errors, which I occasionally like to play as well. And then the other thing is, occasionally, the Indians have been a very bad lineup so far this year for the most part. And if you can get a first 5, 4.5, 4 even, we saw a 5 a couple of days ago. You just take the under. Their pitching's good enough that they're going to hold down the opponent, and their hitting is so bad that you're going to get some value there. So if you see a 4, 4.5, or even a 5 like we did earlier this week with the Cleveland Indians in the first 5, most likely, depending upon who the starter is, I'm looking at the under, because they've just killed these first 5 unders because they can't hit and their pitching's really good.
Andrew, I'm going to come to you to talk about baseball. You had a couple of unlucky beats, which I don't really care about because I think you handicapped them really nicely. That's more of what I care about, was the thinking and the write-up good. So what have you noticed this early Major League Baseball season? Anything that you're keying in on right now?
Well, I think just like any other sport, what you want to look at is just these streaks. I mean, let's keep it very, simple, stupid. The old saying, guys, right now, the Oakland A's couldn't hit a beach ball flying at them. And I think that's what you have to look at and just say, hey, look, this team is struggling. The old saying is a streak is only going to be snapped once, but that streak itself could go on and on and on and on and on. So although we are only early in the season, watch out to see who's hitting. Watch out to see who's not. I think that's huge. I mean, don't let your biased opinion that you had prior to the season, allow you to not make a certain wager on a team or against the team at this point in the season. Although we're early, Andy, we've already learned some things. And I think that, a lot of guys and handicappers at WagerTalk always say, have recency bias. What have you done for me lately? But I'd have to say, I mean, the MLB, I'm not sure if Matt would agree with me with this, but I think that, a lot of people would say that it's one of the biggest "what have you done for me lately" sports out there, because nobody cares how great this pitcher had for a start, 4 starts ago. I care what he's done for me recently. Same thing with a batter. And as far as the whole G-Man Choi thing, of course, Matt, I remember what you talking about that, man. That was awesome. It was awesome because, I heard Matt mention it once or twice, and I was like, okay, like, he obviously has a trend, and this guy, I was like, geez, Matt really likes this player. And then, like, as the year went on, the more times we would chat, I was like, wow, this guy is destroying him. And tonight, Mike Moustakis, I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce that right, but he's got a great matchup, an outstanding on-base percentage. And that's how you got to look at it. The dailybaseball.data.com, Fangraphs, Daily Roto, there's so many websites you can look at to see those lefties and righties splits, like Matt mentioned with the White Sox. That's just an unbelievable split you want to be careful of, and you want to look at that. And if you're going to bet on them or bet against them, so many different things. But I guess the number one thing I would say, Andy, is just be mindful of these streaks, because Oakland A's are a perfect example right now. So many people, when they start betting or they're getting into baseball, they want to use that do factor. Don't use the do factor. Use what we're seeing right now. And this team is not playing quality baseball. And, if you want to find your Derrick Henry in the MLB, there he is, G-Man Choi. And you can use that website, dailybaseball.data.com, to help give you your stats and your numbers for, like Matt said, whether it's the runs, hits, and errors, or whether it's bases or all that good stuff. I can't wait for a great baseball season.
Yeah, it's going to be a long one. It's nice to have a full baseball season in front of us. So great stuff, guys. Prop It Up is back. We will be doing this on Tuesdays, and hopefully we'll start getting more and more shows in, give you guys more plays, more information. But don't forget, right now, go to any of our pages and get 90 days of props for $259. That is a ton of bets. I mean, just tonight I have an NBA and an NHL prop. So that's 2 props you're going to get 90 days of that. And when you purchase that, you will get a coupon for 20% off a long-term access or seasonal subscription of their choice. Just an absolute beautiful time of year for props with NBA, with NHL and MLB. Prop It Up is back. That is Matt Josephs. You can find him on sportsmemo.com. That is Andrew McInnis, rocking the Puck Time shirt, man. Love it. Puck Time's going great. And Matt's rocking the Syracuse shirt, even though college basketball's over.
I'm paid. I have to do it. It's part of the tuition checks I send them every year.
Oh, that's great.
Free advertising. Free advertising.
Yeah. Use it as a write-off. So there's nobody else I'd rather be talking to than my fellow prop masters. And let's keep the prop game going. That's Andrew McInnis. That's Matt Josephs. I'm Andy Lang. Good luck on all your prop plays. Keep checking in on social media with us, and check us out on sportsmemo.com and wagertalk.com. We are here for you for all your prop plays. Good luck, and we will see you next week on Prop It Up.